Hello, and welcome to Freedom Keepers Senior Edition. This is the podcast where we encourage all our seniors to stand up, speak out for freedom, love of country, faith, and family. Thank you for joining me, Irene, and my co host, Beverly, today. Please subscribe to our channel on YouTube to help us grow and get the word out there. We're going to be discussing a very serious topic on everyone's mind right now, and that is affordability. This is an issue, especially on the minds of seniors today. It certainly is on ours because we are affected as well. So, what is affordability? Well, it's whether you and I can realistically pay for essential goods and services with your current income. It's also very complex, with key aspects including housing, medical care, utilities, and essential needs like groceries, gasoline. We're going to talk about how we got here, what's happening today in our country, how it compares to other countries, and causes and possible solutions or things we can all do to help us maintain our quality of life and face this challenge head on. So, Beverly, I know you wanted to speak a little bit on the history of affordability. So, let's talk about how we got here.
Well, thank you very much, Irene. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We have to go back over 50 years ago to mid century America. And when our boys started coming home from World War II, they were looking forward to a better future. They were looking towards that American dream. And what they were looking for was that nuclear family, a husband, a wife, children, a house, a car, and a pension for their retirement. There was a single income household. The husband went out to work. The wife took care of the children. It was the American dream. Everything was going well. It was a life that was good. The future looked bright. And unfortunately, the dream started to fade in the 60s, late 60s to the early 70s. And this was because of, there was a lot of changes with inflation. Prices started going up. The economy was very uncertain. There was a lot of flux that was going on, and many people were just it was very difficult for many. Hard work was still valued, but confidence in whether the American dream was attainable
Mhm.
was becoming very, very shaky. But then, we started to look at the 90s and optimism remained high, but challengers were there. And it was very, very difficult because there was a rise in inequality. And that's basically because what was happening, Irene, there were people that were making a tremendous amount of money, like CEOs of financial institutions. You had these tech people that were making a lot of money. They were discovering all kinds of technology in their basements, and all of a sudden they were multimillionaires overnight. There were changes in the job market. They were more tech oriented and people couldn't keep up. That American dream was fading very, very rapidly because the more money these tech giants were making and all, and these celebrities that were getting a lot of money playing baseball and football and all, things started to get out of control. Inflation was crazy, but the wages for middle class and the poor were not rising. So over time, for the middle class and for the poor, the American dream was becoming unreal. It was not becoming a reality. And, what do you think, Irene? Why were they increasing?
Well, we know that prices surged between 2010, 2024. Social Security, that a lot of our seniors, most of us depend on, it lost roughly 20% of its purchasing power. And the COLA adjustments, those cost of living increases, they didn't keep pace with real living costs. And then we had the pandemic from 21 to 23, which really snarled supply chains. Restaurants were closed. Consumers suddenly had to prepare 3 meals a day at home, which was really drove a lot of us crazy.
Hardship.
Yeah. And in 2022, Russia's invasion of the Ukraine, it raised food prices all around the world. And then added to that was the avian flu that added to the spike of egg prices. And then there was more. So prices have steadily increased over the past 10 years. High inflation, particularly during Obama and Biden years, because of their very lax monetary policies. I mean, they printed money like tons of money, which makes purchasing power less. We had a lot of money floating out there. And inflation rose to almost 9%, which peaked in 22. And that's what Trump inherited. However, it fell to 2.2% in November of 24 when he was elected. So the current annual rate of inflation is 2.5% throughout 2025 and up to February of 26, although in March of this year, it has slightly gone up to 3.2, I believe. Now, Trump's tariffs have pushed up prices of imported goods, particularly food like bananas and coffee. Coffee is outrageous these days. So there are many causes of price increases, and let's face it, folks, historically, prices on everything goes up over time. You can't get an ice cream sandwich or creamsicle for 5 cents like you could when we were kids. Remember that? Now it's more like 3 or $4. It's a fact of life, unfortunately. And Beverly, it affects us all, but in particular our senior population, doesn't it?
No, it really does. I can remember running after the Good Humor truck and
Yeah,
paying 10 cents for a Good Humor popsicle.
sure.
And then when I got married in the late 50s, early 60s, $10 bought 10 bags of groceries.
Yeah,
Coffee was like 50 cents a pound.
yeah.
So it was like the wages were, my husband was making about three to $4,000 a year, but the wages were pretty consistent with the amount of money that we were paying for commodities. So it wasn't bad. We were able to exist, not only exist, but we were able to thrive. But right now, inflation is eating into everything. Healthcare. I started out when I first retired with paying $190 a month for my supplemental health care. Now I'm paying $425 a month. What is that? That's crazy. It's about 180% increase in inflation regarding my health care. How are we able to afford it? It's
Mhm,
ridiculous. You
mhm.
have to cut back on necessities. You have to start draining your savings. And I see a lot of the seniors that I know that are working at different jobs, at part-time jobs, like in ShopRite and different places like that, just to cover the basics. So
Yeah,
what do we do as seniors? How are we going to survive?
let me just interrupt. I see a lot of people also go to Home Depot, when they're over 65.
Mhm.
And I really think that Americans have lived such a comfortable lifestyle growing up. In fact, we didn't have any wars on our territory or borders. We became a little bit complacent. We really had a lot of material goods, and we didn't really plan well for our retirement. At least most of the folks I know didn't, and I know I didn't. And you don't think about retirement when you're 30 or 40 years old. So I think a lot of what we're facing now is quite a bit of sticker shock.
Well, I was lucky because back in the 1980s, I was working in the emergency room and I was working with an ER nurse that told me that, Bev, you have to really save for your retirement. I says, I'm not retiring yet for many, many years. He said, well, you have to have at least $800,000 to retire. I thought that was like a couple of million. Today, it's nothing if you have 800,000. So, today seniors are at risk for losing their homes because they can't keep up with the
Mhm.
mortgage payments. The over 55 and older are currently the fastest growing homeless demographic in America. Did you know that? The
No,
fastest.
no.
It's like it's unbelievable. It's ridiculous. According to a study that HUD did in 2024, 770,000 people became homeless, and 20% of these people were over the age of 55.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, they're living in, these RV trailers and stuff like that. They have jobs, they have to have jobs because they can't pay for food and all, and they see many, everything rents are skyrocketing, and people are getting evicted, and they're not, younger people, too many younger people, it's the elderly that are getting evicted.
Mhm.
There's a lot of foreclosures that are going on, and this is post-COVID. And in 2023, 48% of the older renters and 43% of homeowners spent more than 30% of their income, guess what? On what? Housing. It's
Mhm.
ridiculous. The 2024 supplemental poverty measure showed a poverty rate for seniors over 65 of 15%. That's over 9 million seniors, Irene. So what do you think is affecting affordability?
Well, we have a lot of factors. We have, the rising geopolitical tensions right now in the Middle East and that has increased energy prices, and let me tell you, when the price of oil goes up, it affects everything because
Right.
so much of what we manufacture uses that, and also the delivery for food products, that's the diesel fuel that trucks use, that affects it. We have a tremendous increase in utilities, electric and gas. 25 to 30%. The Northeast, especially, we were hit really hard
Mhm.
because of severe cold this last winter. We had the two epic snowstorms, worst that we've had in about 20 years. So, again, the cost of electric and gas has gone up almost 30% in 2026. Now, we are regulated in the Northeast by PJM, which is Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland. It's a consortium, although it also regulates and manages 12 the plans and approves new energy infrastructures for 12 states. And this affects 67 million people in the Northeast. The problem with PJM is they're very slow to act and very slow to approve plans. So that's something that our local legislature needs to keep up on. Then you have this AI issue of data centers. Guess what? New Jersey has 60 operational facilities in Newark and North New Jersey. So these data centers require an enormous amount of electricity. You have to write, folks, you have to write to your governor and or congressman and ask them to take action to reduce our electricity costs because it's just outrageous. I mean, I Mine was 750 last month, and the month before was like close to 650. I haven't paid these prices for 13 years of living in my community. It's ridiculous. And the data centers, they need to pay for their own electricity, not run on the consumers who are in that area. So what are Beverly? What do you think? So how are seniors coping or considering
Well,
within all of this?
well, guess what? Good luck with our governor here in New Jersey with reducing the electricity costs. Didn't she say that she was going to put a stop on, she was going to freeze all the energy costs and everything during her campaign?
Well, her executive order states she's considering
Oh,
it.
yeah, right. Well, she's going to continue to consider it for the next 4 years because she's not going
Yeah,
to do anything about it.
yeah.
Well, what's going on right now is that actually, let's go back 10 years. I was retired and I wanted to live in a community where everything was provided for me. I wanted to go into one of these adult communities because they were very attractive. And it was once the retirement communities were once a very great place to live because everything was there. All your social activities, they mowed your lawn, did your grass. Seeded. They also, they went around with snow removal. They did a lot of things for the seniors, so you didn't have to do anything basically.
Mhm,
And but what happened over the years, I started out with about a 350 or $325 maintenance fee, and by the time I left, which was in just last year, 2025, I was paying $450 a month. I mean, that's ridiculous because the maintenance fees were constantly going up, and they're skyrocketing. And I don't know how seniors today are living on these, just on their fixed incomes and being able to afford them. They're having to. Many seniors are having to draw from their savings to afford to live there, and costs are continuing to climb. And administration keeps saying, well, there's higher labor expenses, there's rising insurance rates, utilities, and healthcare costs. Well, what you need to do is you need to go around and figure out, what other companies are offering. Maybe they're offering a cheaper rate. So you need to just go out and do some research on your part. A lot of the HOAs are cutting back on a lot of their services, like they're deferring maintenance projects or reducing services like landscaping and social programming. And this helps a little. But what happens in the long run is if they really cut back on landscaping services, their property values start to go down, and then the houses go down. So I don't know. I wanted to talk about what was going on with my sister at this time. My sister is living in Florida, and she was living in a modular community, and unfortunately, she developed dementia. And what happened to her? She had a small savings. She didn't have a lot of money. Her husband died. Also her daughter died when she was about 21 years old. So she really had no one. And as she developed dementia, she wound up, having a healthcare proxy down there and a power of attorney that eventually had to put her into memory care. Well, memory care is costing her $5,000 a month. Can you imagine how much it would cost in New Jersey? Probably double that, I'm sure. But be that as it may, she's living there and it's eating into all of her income. Now, what they have to do is once all of her, the money that she saved all her life is gone, then Medicaid will, I guess, probably consider putting her on their program, but not until everything is gone. And now her house is up for sale and they're trying to, just gather up enough money so that they can pay for this. So this is what's happening. This is the American dream, Irene. It's gone for many of us, for many seniors. Many of us are not able to live that American dream even when we're 75, 80, 85 years old. So I just think it's terrible. So this is what's happened to my sister really. And I wonder how it compares in other states and countries.
Well, it is. What's going on with our seniors and how it's affecting all of us is very sad. However, I do believe it'll improve towards the end of this year, and I believe in Trump and his policies, and I believe the economy will get better. So I'm hoping very much for that. Anyways, Bermuda is the most expensive place to live, in case you're thinking of moving there. Worldwide, India is the cheapest. And within a study of 175 countries, the US is in the 14th place, meaning there are 13 places that are a lot more expensive than we are. The most affordable states in the United States are West Virginia, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Iowa. The least affordable in the United States is California, Idaho, and Montana. Montana, by the way, is the most expensive state in the US. And that's because during the Biden administration, a lot of wealthy people moved there, and that drove up their costs considerably. The most affordable state is Iowa. Now, the average monthly rent in the United States is 1,890. Electricity average is $154 a month. Not for New Jersey, that's for sure.
Nope.
Food groceries is $1,050. And childcare, if you have two, which is a real big one, is $29,000 a year. That's really outrageous. The average home sale price is $486,000, and that's up 2.4% since 2025. The average cost of living in the United States is 2,433. It's cheaper in the UK, Canada, Luxembourg, New Zealand, Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, and Israel. Now, stats on affordability around the world are measured primarily on housing, meaning renter households who are most affected and they are the highest. And healthcare. The cheapest healthcare in the world is in Thailand, Vietnam, and India. So let's try to evaluate affordability. So, what kind of quality of life do you get? For example, if you're thinking of moving or moving to another country, you base it on food products, medical care, political stability, and quality of goods. For example, if that country sells or you're buying meat, fish sold on the streets or in outdoor markets, I mean, do you really want to take a chance on that since you've been used to buying those products that have been refrigerated before they got to you? And if the cost of living is lower in another country, this doesn't mean you can simply continue your life there at a lower price. And the opposite is often true. People need to think about that. For example, you'd have to, if you move to where there are lower costs to live, you'd also have to search long for higher quality goods that you are used to. For example, you'd have to buy imported items at a much higher price. For example, cars, electronics, and appliances. These would cost you a lot more. So, Beverly, enough of the negative now. What can we all do? And we have some tips to alleviate our situation or be able to afford a decent quality of life. I think there are quite a few things, right?
Well, I would like to be positive, but I have a very hard time sometimes to remain positive in this environment. But let's look at some areas where we can really start saving because sometimes we waste an awful lot and we have to think about what we're doing. Like dining out, for instance. Dining out is getting to be very, very expensive, especially if you want to go out and have a glass of wine. And I found that if you go to these bring your own bottles, you bring a bottle of wine and you have a couple of friends and you share the bottle of wine, it's a lot cheaper because a lot of these restaurants, charge an awful lot of money for liquor. So
Yeah, and that's how they make their money. They make
that's right.
most of their money on alcohol and soft drinks.
So one way is look for those restaurants that say bring your own bottle,
Mhm.
BYOB. Also look at food delivery. Why do you have to have your food delivered? Why don't you go and pick it up? If you want a pizza, then you have to give a tip to the guy who delivers it and all. Think about all the savings that you can. It adds up after a while.
Mhm.
Also, look at your streaming services and all, like, your internet and everything. Why do you need gym memberships? Sometimes we don't even use them. I remember I had a gym, membership, and I was paying something like $1,000 a year, and I wasn't even using it. And I said, "Well, done with that one, that's
Yeah,
gone."
yeah.
Okay? And then food waste. Well, I live with my daughter, which is very, very good. I save money that way. Don't tell anybody. But, it's like my son-in-law goes through the refrigerator all the time, and he says, "Oh, mom's at it again. She is, buying food and she lets it expire." I
Mhm.
says, "It's not me, it's you guys. It's not me, I eat." But anyhow, you have to look at the discarded or expired items in your refrigerator because, you're losing money. You're paying good, money for that food. If it expires, you have to throw it out. It's
Mhm.
useless. Paying unnecessary ATM fees, bank service charges. Also, credit cards. Since the 1970s, we say, "Master charge, credit card, put it on
Mhm.
my credit."
Mhm.
That's the way it goes. It's like, forget it. You don't have any money? Put it on my card.
Mhm.
So these are the areas. Also, auto insurance. You can compare. Go to other places and check around to see if you can save any money with insurance and all. And I'm sure you've saved money that way too, Irene, haven't you?
Yeah, there's an online service called Insurify, and they advertise on TV or auto savings. I saved $80 a month doing this, switching my plan.
There you
I
go.
couldn't believe it. It was really good.
There you go.
And check out Capital One Shopping rather than Amazon. You can save up to 40% on that because actually on Amazon, some of the prices have gotten to be really high. What do you think about Beverly Home Insurance?
I think it's been very, very high, like Progressive Home quote. They quote one price, and then a couple of months later, they increase the price. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
You have to be very, very careful. You have to be careful with the home warranties too. That's another one where they keep raising the prices. Yep,
Mhm.
you have to be very careful with all of that. And also credit balance transfers up to 21 months with no interest when they sort of like hook, line, and sinker you. It's like best credit balance, get this here, change all take all your credit, all your money and bring it all together, everything that you owe, and take it to us, and we'll give you a certain amount of interest. Well, that interest grows. It's ridiculous. Don't listen to any of these people.
Or it's no interest, which is
Right.
sometimes a savings plan. Yeah.
This is true. Also,
Yeah.
ask your utility company for a payment or a budget plan. Do home energy audits, right, to see what you're using the most energy on. They go around and they check all your outlets and everything and what you're spending a month. They check your windows. They see if they're energy efficient enough. This is what you should do.
Mhm.
There are a lot of things that you could do. Join a solar community and you don't have to put panels on your roof. I know a guy that was living in one of the communities that put panels all over his roof, went out and paid $40,000. And he was so happy that he was only spending $10 a month in electricity. Well, he had to pay the $40,000 off before he could actually save any money.
Eventually, yes, you
Duh.
do have to pay that.
That was a no-brainer, right? Okay. So, also, here's another thing, wash your clothes in cold water. You don't have to use hot water all the time. They have these, cold water detergents that work fantastically. And also, put all your dishes in the dishwasher, but only wash them when it's completely full. And also heat pumps. Heat pumps work. I had
Mhm.
a heat pump in that community that I lived in, which I think is your community. And
Yes.
I believe that, when people were spending, I don't know, 5, $600 on electric, I was spending like maybe $200. Okay, so heat pumps are not as efficient, I have to say, to be very truthful, as a regular heating, like maybe a gas heating or something. But so you put a sweater on, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you put a sweater on, you save money.
Yeah.
What can I
Uh,
say? How else can we save, Irene?
I have a list of dumb things you should stop buying and wasting your money on. The first one's bottled water. Big waste of money. You'd be better off buying a filter for your tap and using the tap water. And sometimes even the tap water is good enough. Bloated cable TV packages. That's a real scam, boy. They get you on that. Extended warranties. Now, you never really need an extended warranty on anything because you never get to that point. Don't buy premium gas for non-luxury cars unless it's required. I know, Beverly, you have a car that it is required, but don't buy it unless you really need to.
Well, guess what? It's almost $7.
Yeah. Overpriced drinks when you go out to eat. We talked about that. Alcohol and sodas is where restaurants make the most of their money. Upgrading to the latest smartphones. You don't need the latest smartphones. My iPhone is 7 years old. It's perfectly fine. The camera works great. I'm using the camera now on this. Cell phone providers. You can't, look into the new ones. Mint Mobile at $20 a month. Pure Talk, $24 a month. And these are veteran-owned companies. Don't be using the big companies like Verizon or AT&T. And T. And these new companies, they just rent their they connections off the cell towers of these big companies. You're getting the exact same service. I've been very happy with Pure Talk for about 3 years now. Name brand versus generic drugs. You can go with generic. It's really okay. Don't worry. Now, the weight loss stuff, there's a lot of it out there. And by the way, one of the reasons we found out, we do a lot of research when we do these episodes, and I found out one of the reasons our medical premiums have increased in 26 is because of those new GLP weight loss drugs, the injections. They're extremely expensive for the manufacturer, for the pharmaceutical companies. So what they decided to do, well, we're going to just raise premiums all across the board because of that. So we are affected even if you don't have a prescription for it. Cell phone games. Cell phone games can be very expensive. They add up. Expedited shipping. I mean, does it make a big difference if you get it in 3 or 4 days as opposed to one? I don't think so. New cars. If you buy a new car, brand new, you lose 20 to 30% of its value in the first year. And luxury cars. If you buy a luxury car, you pay 40% more in insurance.
Mm, I
So,
do.
has our government, Beverly, done anything to help us alleviate the situation of
Well,
seniors sinking into uncontrollable debt?
well, I'm glad you asked. What they do, they really do. They're very good with certain things. Meals on Wheels program offers nutritious meals to seniors over 60 years old who are homebound, and they offer safety checks, social interaction, and customized diets like vegetarian. I think you have a friend that has
Yeah.
a vegetarian diet, and she says they're fantastic, right?
Yes. Yes.
Some of my friends have complained that they're not very good. I don't know, but I says, "Well, why wouldn't you complain then? Tell the people, who are part of Meals on Wheels that the meals aren't any good and they need to do something about it." But I think the majority of people like it, so I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
And under Trump, they've eliminated federal income tax on Social Security. Actually, it's not eliminating the federal tax per se. It gives you a $1,000 deduction under the big, beautiful bill. But I saved money doing
Mhm.
my taxes this year. And they also provide extra help for Medicare premiums and Part D prescription plans, which can save you up to $5,000 annually. And there's several agencies and programs exist to help low income individuals lower their Medicare costs. It includes state health insurance assistance programs, which is SHIP. There's the state Medicaid offices. There's Social Security. These organizations help apply for Medicare savings programs and extra help. And then there's Part D low income subsidies to reduce premiums, deductibles, and copays. All you have to do as seniors is go to www.medicare.gov to find out about all these programs. www.medicare.gov. Let your fingers do the walking. But keep in mind, requirements for these programs to manage your income is very low. sometimes so low that people are turned away in droves, and it's not easy to qualify. We have to do something about that. You need to talk to your legislators about that. Then there's LI HEAP. It's a program to reduce utility costs or eliminate them altogether for seniors. That's a big one. That really is, if they can eliminate it for seniors. And you can also get help by calling the Elder Care Locator. And that's a service of the federal government on aging and aid for food, health care, and energy assistance. Then there's also SNAP, which was formerly the food stamp program. Now, did you know that nearly 14 million adults over 65 qualify for this program, but have not signed up for it?
Hmm.
I wish I could qualify for something like that. So, tens of billions of dollars of benefits are going unused every year because seniors don't know about them, or they find that filling out the application is too difficult. So, they feel ashamed about applying. I wouldn't be ashamed to apply if I got something for nothing. Another thing too, a lot of these illegals who are on these benefits, they stopped. I think the federal government is doing away with the candy bars and all of the
The snacks. Yeah.
snacks and everything
Yeah.
because that's what they were buying. They were buying potato chips and candy and all this other stuff instead of the needed essentials. So get out there, seniors, and look into these benefits because they're out there for you. So,
Yeah.
Irene, can you think of anything else we should be doing?
Yeah, I have a good one most people don't know about at all. If you have your own home and you need any home renovations like new windows, siding, roofs, flooring, there are many towns in many states that offer grants under Federal Rehabilitation Affordable Housing Act. This is a grant, no money down. What I did it last year. So what happens is you apply, they grant you, and I think they did something like $45,000 worth of work in my house. And the only caveat is you have to stay in your house for 10 years in order not to repay any of it. So I did this last year, and it's a really good idea for people who really can't afford to do anything. And again, New Jersey offers these in many towns, but there are different criterias or eligibility for different towns. So you just have to take a look at that. And one last thing, we have several states in this country that will pay you to relocate or move there. For example, Alaska,
I know.
Oklahoma, West Virginia, Kansas, Michigan, Iowa, Indiana, Minnesota. All of these have programs. Some require having a job there or working from home situation, while others do not. So check it out. Alaska, for example, will pay you $1,000 a month right after you get there.
Too
So
cold.
I know, very cold. That's why they're doing it. So, folks, while the general direction of the economy remains complex, and sometimes you can get very depressed about it, there are indicators on the horizon that suggest a potential easing of the severe affordability constraints that we have been seeing and living with. So, experts indicate there's a light at the end of the tunnel in the form of a gradual great housing reset beginning this year in 2026, where housing affordability is expected to improve for the first time in years. Wages are outpacing price growth. And for the first time since the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, we all remember that, household incomes are now projected to grow faster than home prices for a sustained period. There are stagnating home prices. There is mortgage rate moderation, and that's quietly going down. So it's easier to afford a home, first time buyers especially. And there's increased inventory. So the supply of existing homes is forecast to grow by nearly 9% in 2026. That makes 3 consecutive years of inventory gains and giving buyers, particularly first time homeowners, more options. And rent affordability is improving. Why? Because there is a lot more new construction going on. So that's projected to get much better.
Well, that's an improvement. I have to say, as seniors living on Social Security and small pensions, our voices need to be heard. Cost of living is skyrocketing. Each day brings us to the brink of losing everything. And how are we to survive? We can make a difference,
Uh-huh.
by
Uh-huh.
letting our voices be heard. Apathy is not the answer. We can't expect our younger generation to speak as they've been led astray, particularly by these college professors and the left wing part of the Democratic Party. What you need to do is to contact our representatives in Congress, voice our concerns over the high cost of living. And, you know, the amount of money that they're spending on illegals who are not entitled to benefits, it's ridiculous. It's absurd, and it has
Mhm.
to stop now. We need to stand up and fight for short-term limits. Tell your congressman short-term limits. Our reps need to work for us and not for foreigners who are raping our system dry. If we don't speak up, there will be nothing left for our children. It will be the dystopian society that the far left and elitists want. We've covered a lot of information today, and some of it you may want to look into further.
Mhm.
We also have a newsletter which breaks out the programs we have discussed so you can follow up. If you would like a free copy, just email us at freedomkeepersirene@gmail.com. That's freedomkeeperirene@gmail.com or freedomkeeperbeverly, or no, I'm sorry, freedomkeeperbev@gmail.com, freedomkeeperbev@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and help us grow. We'll see you next time when our podcast will be on the topic of American faith. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you all. Goodbye.